Racial fetishization disguised as love can destroy not just marriages, but the very identity of those trapped within its web. And Kevin's discovery of his wife Lisa's systematic betrayal would expose layers of deception that cut far deeper than typical infidelity. Her confession that she had never been attracted to Asian men, despite being Asian herself and married to him for 5 years, would challenge everything he understood about their relationship, their intimacy, and the foundation upon which they had built their family. Confrontations rarely come from the affair partners themselves, but Kevin's introduction to his wife's infidelity began with a brazen approach from a 49-year-old man who wielded power like a weapon and treated other people's marriages as territory to be conquered. This wasn't a guilty confession or accidental discovery, but a deliberate assertion of dominance that would set the tone for everything that followed. The stranger's aggressive posturing, boasting about his industry influence, claiming he rarely loses, and declaring his intention to go without a fight, revealed a predatory personality that viewed Kevin's marriage not as a sacred bond to respect, but as an obstacle to overcome. His casual announcement that he had been sleeping with my wife demonstrated the callous confidence of someone accustomed to taking what he wanted without consequences. Kevin's attempt to maintain composure during the drive home illustrated the surreal experience of having one's world shattered by a stranger's words while still needing to function in ordinary reality. The contrast between this devastating revelation and the mundane act of driving created the dissociative state that many betrayed spouses experience when confronted with unthinkable truths. The decision to investigate Lisa's iCloud represented Kevin's first violation of trust in their marriage, a boundary crossing forced by the need to verify claims that seemed too horrific to believe. This digital detective work, while necessary for uncovering truth, marked the beginning of his transformation from trusting husband to suspicious investigator of his own wife's secret life. What Kevin discovered in those text messages transcended typical affair communications to reveal a pattern of racial fetishization and humiliation that made his betrayal particularly cruel and dehumanizing. The affair partner's comparison of dick sizes and his expressed surprise that an Asian man could have taken her virginity revealed not just sexual competition, but racist stereotyping that reduced Kevin to a caricature. How does racist fetishization within infidelity create additional layers of trauma beyond typical betrayal? When intimate partners reduce each other to racial stereotypes, what does this reveal about the authenticity of their connection? Lisa's confession about her inability to resist white men exposed a psychological dynamic that went far beyond simple attraction to reveal deep-seated issues with her own racial identity and internalized preferences that had shaped her sexual choices throughout their marriage. This wasn't just about infidelity, but about fundamental incompatibility disguised as love. The revelation of multiple affair partners, including a jealousy-inducing other guy who was also white and locally prominent, demonstrated that Lisa's infidelity wasn't an isolated mistake, but a systematic pattern of seeking validation and sexual fulfillment outside their marriage based specifically on racial preferences that excluded her own husband. The earliest discoverable infidelity, involving an actor type contacted at a party, showed that Lisa's pattern of racial preference in extramarital relationships had been consistent from the beginning, suggesting that her attraction issues hadn't developed during their marriage but had existed from its inception while being carefully concealed. The expensive gifts Lisa received from her affair partners, combined with Kevin's realization that she likely maintained secret financial accounts, revealed how her infidelity had evolved into a form of compensated relationship that blurred the lines between affair and transaction, adding financial deception to emotional and sexual betrayal. Kevin's protective instinct to send their 4-year-old son to his grandmother's house before confronting Lisa demonstrated responsible parenting that prioritized the child's emotional safety while adults dealt with relationship crisis. This decision showed remarkable presence of mind during a moment of personal devastation. Lisa's initial response to confrontation followed the classic pattern of minimizing responsibility while emphasizing her emotional connection to Kevin, claiming he was the only man she's ever loved and describing their marriage as building a home together, while conveniently ignoring the systematic betrayal that had undermined that foundation. Can someone genuinely love a person they've never been physically attracted to? How do we evaluate claims of love when they coexist with systematic deception and betrayal based on racial preferences? Her attempt to blame her affair partner for initiating conversations and claim that message contexts were skewed represented the familiar deflection tactics used by unfaithful spouses caught with undeniable evidence. This gaslighting attempt suggested either desperation to minimize responsibility or genuine delusion about her own agency in the affairs. Lisa's explanation that her affair partners made her feel desired by expressing obsession with her features and claiming to love any woman that looks remotely like her revealed the toxic nature of fetishization that reduces individuals to representatives of their race, rather than unique persons worthy of individual appreciation. The connection between Lisa's affairs and her professional advancement, with partners helping her network and increase her earnings astronomically, transformed her infidelity from purely personal betrayal into calculated career strategy that used sexual relationships as tools for professional gain. Lisa's devastating admission that she had never been physically attracted to Asian men and had become even less attracted to Kevin during their marriage revealed the cruelest aspect of their relationship, that her lack of attraction wasn't hidden or suppressed, but had actually intensified over time while she maintained the facade of a loving marriage. Her confession that only white men sexually excited her provided the missing piece that explained years of what Kevin had experienced as satisfying intimacy, but which Lisa had apparently endured as obligation. This revelation reframed their entire sexual relationship as performance rather than mutual desire. The timing of this confession, after 5 years of marriage and the birth of their son, raised profound questions about Lisa's motivations for marrying Kevin in the first place, if physical attraction had never existed. Her choices suggested calculation rather than love had driven major life decisions. What ethical obligations do people have to disclose fundamental incompatibilities like racial attraction preferences before marriage? Can a marriage built on hidden rejection ever become authentic? Lisa's strategic shift to practical arguments about teamwork and co-parenting after her emotional appeals failed demonstrated manipulation designed to trap Kevin in an unsustainable marriage by using their child as leverage rather than addressing the fundamental problems she had revealed. Her threat that divorce would ruin their son's life and reduce Kevin's parenting time represented emotional blackmail that attempted to make Kevin complicit in maintaining a fraudulent marriage for the child's supposed benefit, while ignoring the psychological damage that living in such a relationship could cause all family members. The revelation that Lisa's primary affair partner wanted to have children with her and create a family represented the ultimate escalation of threat to Kevin's marriage and family stability. This wasn't just about sexual infidelity, but about complete replacement of Kevin's role in Lisa's life and their child's future. Lisa's admission that she felt addicting passion with her affair partner while imagining what-ifs about alternative life scenarios revealed that her emotional investment in the affair had progressed far beyond physical attraction to encompass future planning that excluded Kevin entirely. The power dynamic described by the affair partner's persistence and constant presence during Lisa's business trips showed how he had weaponized professional interaction to maintain intimate access despite her marriage, creating situations where resistance became increasingly difficult. Kevin's concern about family and social humiliation reflected the additional burden that public discovery of infidelity places on betrayed spouses, particularly when racial dynamics and fetishization become part of the narrative that others will inevitably discuss and judge. How does public shame about infidelity compound private trauma? When racial fetishization becomes part of a cheating scandal, how does this affect the betrayed spouse's relationship with their community and identity? The established nature of Kevin and Lisa's social connections, intertwined families and friend circles, created additional complexity for any resolution of their marriage crisis, as decisions about their relationship would inevitably affect numerous other relationships and social dynamics. Kevin's recognition that he was totally unprepared for the emotional roller coaster ahead demonstrated the realistic assessment that recovery from such systematic betrayal would require significant time, support, and possibly professional intervention to process the multiple layers of trauma he had experienced. The intersection of racial identity, sexual attraction, and marital commitment in Kevin's situation created a uniquely complex form of betrayal that challenged not just his trust in Lisa, but potentially his confidence in his own desirability and worth as an Asian man in relationships with Asian women. Lisa's apparent internalization of preferences that excluded her own racial group raised questions about identity, self-acceptance, and the broader cultural forces that shape attraction patterns, particularly within communities where racial preferences can reflect internalized discrimination or fetishization. The systematic nature of Lisa's deception, maintaining regular sexual intimacy while being fundamentally unattracted to her husband, represented a form of emotional labor that raises questions about consent, authenticity, and the psychological sustainability of relationships built on fundamental incompatibility. Can physical intimacy be consensual when one partner is systematically deceiving the other about their fundamental attraction and commitment? What constitutes authentic consent in relationships built on hidden rejection? Kevin's satisfaction with their regular sexual relationship, contrasted with Lisa's revelation that it had been duty sex, illustrated how thoroughly deception can disguise incompatibility and prevent partners from making informed decisions about their relationships and futures. The financial aspects of Lisa's affairs, expensive gifts, and probable secret accounts suggested that her deception had extended into economic betrayal that could affect Kevin's financial security and their child's future resources, adding practical concerns to emotional trauma. The involvement of locally prominent figures in Lisa's affairs created additional complications for Kevin's social and professional reputation, as the public nature of some participants made discretion difficult and increased the likelihood of community awareness and gossipment. Lisa's claim that she can't help what she is attracted to, while technically accurate, ignored her moral responsibility to be honest about fundamental incompatibilities before marriage, and her ongoing obligation to address these issues constructively rather than through systematic deception and betrayal. The presence of their 4-year-old son throughout this crisis created urgency around decisions about family structure, while also providing motivation for finding solutions that prioritize the child's well-being over adult emotional satisfaction or revenge. How do parents balance their own needs for authentic relationships with their responsibilities to provide stable environments for their children? When is preserving family structure worth maintaining relationships built on deception? Kevin's dilemma represented the impossible choice between accepting a marriage built on fundamental deception and racial fetishization, or disrupting his family structure and social connections to seek authenticity and genuine connection elsewhere. The cultural and family expectations surrounding their marriage added pressure to find solutions that preserved faith and family harmony while potentially sacrificing Kevin's emotional well-being and right to genuine partnership. The broader implications of Lisa's racial preferences raised questions about identity, attraction, and the responsibility of individuals to examine their own biases and preferences for patterns that might reflect internalized discrimination or unhealthy fetishization. Kevin's story illustrated how infidelity can expose not just relationship problems, but deeper issues around identity, authenticity, and the complex ways that racial dynamics can complicate intimate relationships even within the same ethnic community. The resolution of Kevin's crisis would require not just decisions about his marriage, but examination of his own identity, worth, and right to relationships built on genuine attraction and honest communication, rather than obligation, deception, and racial fetishization disguised as love.